Hi, welcome to episode 307 of the Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffyk on Ravelry, Fluffykira on Instagram and Twitter. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, and that's where this episode and every episode show notes will be. I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, and we have a Ravelry group also called The Corner of Knit and Tea. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, December 7th. It has been a busy day, as you can see from the shadows. I am coming to you a little bit later in the day and need to record with lights. It is almost 5 p.m. my time, which means it is really starting to get dark here. It has been a very busy day. I don't normally talk about my day job, but we had someone leave. She found a new job and is on to fun things. And so my plate has gotten quite a bit fuller, which is why the last few weeks I have seemed a little all over the place. I had been working approximately part-time, about 20 hours a week, and I am now probably going to move up to between 30 and 40. So I have new clients and new challenges to take on, and I am excited about it. But it is keeping me busy, and hence why I am recording much later in the day than I had intended. My to-do list kept growing, and I didn't get done with it until just recently. So I hope that you are doing well. I actually had a lovely crafty weekend. On Saturday, I took a class at Christy Glass's Knit and Escape. She had originally been hoping to do a in-person retreat, I believe in the Catskills. She announced it at the very beginning of this year prior to the pandemic, and of course it was not possible to have it in person, so she took the event virtual, which is great. If you have not tried out any virtual events, I would encourage you to try. You might check out what Vogue Live is doing in their virtual space, and also what Stitches events are doing in their space, as well as other folks around the web. They are holding virtual festivals where they have classes scheduled in Zoom. They have vendor markets where vendors present in Zoom. They have knit nights in Zoom. They have all kinds of cool features. And if you are someone who finds it hard to travel to other places, I mean, obviously right now no one's traveling. But even though I have a disposable income budget that allows for traveling sometimes, I can't do all the shows that I love to do. And one of the pluses I'm finding to the pandemic, even though we cannot gather in person, all of a sudden I have access to classes that I normally wouldn't have because the classes would happen at events that I can't attend. If you are in the US, the events happen generally on a US schedule, which I realize isn't necessarily the most convenient for those of you who are in Europe and elsewhere, but generally the workshops take place in the various time zones in the US. For instance, the one this weekend was in the Eastern time zone, so it was just 1 hour ahead of where I am. Most of the classes are between 1 and 2 hours in nature. The 1 hour classes are often more general lecture topics. The 2 hours are definitely a little bit more into technique. Again, it is not the same as taking a class in person, but I have really enjoyed the opportunities to take classes from people I wouldn't otherwise be able to meet. So this weekend I took a sideways sweater class from Suzanne Summer. She is Sosu Knits, and she has a variety of sideways sweater patterns. One of them that I really like is called Grid Lines, and she discussed the benefits of knitting sideways sweaters. That is sweaters that you do not knit in the traditional top down or bottom up, but that you knit side to side. Traditionally, these could take a cuff to cuff, where you would start with your cuff and increase for your sleeve, add on more stitches for your body, create a hole in the neck there, and then proceed to the other side and then sort of mirror the decreases back out to cuff. Her method in particular, a lot of her sweaters start at the center front, and she has you work outwards from both halves of the front, creating two duplicate pieces. There are some pros and cons. Obviously, the fit of these kinds of sweaters is different. It's quite a bit boxier. And she has you create decrease lines along the shoulders, sort of to add in place as structural seaming. And then when you're done, you have something that looks very much almost like a T, and you just seam up under the sleeves, under the underarms, and then down the sides of the sweater. Anyway, it was a super interesting class. She developed sort of a recipe so that you could design your own sweater if you have your own yarn and gauge. And it was just a really interesting class, and like I said, not someone that I think I would have access to. I did not partake of the other events because I had a busy weekend, but there were numerous other events, including knit nights and interviews with people and vendors, and unfortunately the one other class that I really wanted to take was a 1-hour lecture with Gail Zucker, who is a knitting photographer, and she was going to share her secrets of photographing knits, and unfortunately it was at the exact same time as my class, so I could not attend, but I am jealous of all those who did get to attend. So that was my experience with the Knit and Escape Retreat. I saw that they are thinking about doing something virtual in the new year, and then they are hoping to gather in person towards the end of 2021, so you can look that up. It's Knit Plus Escape, and that is being hosted by Christy Glass. On Sunday, we had my spinning groups Zoom. I have a spinning group here in Kansas, and we meet most months in someone's home. Of course, we have not been doing that since the pandemic started in March, but we did decide to start doing Zoom meetings. So for several hours yesterday, I sat with my wheel in front of the computer and chatted with friends around Kansas who were spinning in their own homes. So I got lots of spinning done yesterday. So that is a little bit about how my weekend went. I fit in a little bit of crafting, not as much as I had hoped because I was busy those other times, but I have lots of projects to share with you. So technically that was just the introduction. I know we're already 7 minutes in and I haven't done the tea yet, so let's talk about that. I forgot to bring the tea bag over, but today I am drinking Yogi Tea's Egyptian Licorice. It is an herbal tea, so it is non-caffeinated, and I chose that because it's already 5 p.m. and I was a little afraid that if I drank a strong cup of black tea at 5 p.m. I wouldn't be able to go to sleep later this evening. I am drinking this in kind of a festive mug. I got it at Tivana before they closed. It's just a glass mug with some foil dots on it, and it just seemed a little festive. I have Halloween mugs, but I don't really have Christmas mugs, so I just pulled out something that was a little bit festive. And I know black licorice is a divisive subject, so if you like black licorice, I love the Yogi tea. I particularly like it when I have a touch of a sore throat or a little bit of a stuffy nose, and it has gotten cold here and we have turned the heat on, and so I have a little bit of a dry throat from that. I still have been isolating, so I'm at 99.99% positive I am not ill, but we've been running the heater quite a bit because it has been in the 20s Fahrenheit at night, so it has been quite chilly, and with the heater running my throat's a little bit dry, so I thought this would be a good tea for today. So I have one finished object this week, and technically I got to start working on it a little bit early, but it is a new hat pattern from Lana Joy. That's Jois. I admit I do not know how to pronounce her name, but she is a fabulous Indian designer. And she created a hat pattern called the Cozy Holidays Hat, and it has been released by Eucalan as a free download when you subscribe to their newsletter. And I actually got a copy of the pattern in advance because I work with Eucalan, and I decided I wanted to knit it. And so it is a hat. It's a pretty simple hat. It's a worsted weight hat, and it has a little bit of a chevron ridge pattern, which I think you can see here. I ended up using a variegated yarn, so I don't think the ridge is as prominent as it could be. The pattern in itself, she used a very light mint green that almost looks maybe a little bit tweedy or flecked, but you can see the ridges more clearly. I used a skein that I had in stash of 2If by hand. It was actually called Lady Pilot, but it reminds me a little bit of their one of their holidays colorways, and it's bright red, and then it's got these it's got pink and a little bit of purple and pops of turquoise, and I had this great turquoise pom-pom. This is one of the faux fur pom-poms, and it's one of the ones that comes with the snap, so I sewed the snap to the cap and put the pom-pom on today, and it is just a great little beanie, and I think it's going to be fabulous for this winter. This one I think I'm probably going to keep for me because both the 2If by hand is rare because they are out of business, and just because it's a really cute hat pattern and I really like it. It's just a real cute beanie. You can knit it You can knit it a little bit longer if you want it to be more of a slouch, and I just folded the brim up. It grew a little bit in blocking, but I am just really excited about this hat, and I thought it was just kind of fun for the season. So that pattern is free if you need a last minute gift knit it or just want a free pattern. You can check out Eucaland's Instagram or Facebook page. There are links to where you can sign up for their newsletter and get a copy of this pattern free, and it is listed on Ravelry. You can also look for it on Ravelry. It's called the Cozy Holidays Hat, and there are links there on how you can get the pattern for free. So that is my only finished object this week. Quite a few fewer hats than last week, but this one I knocked out this week. So in terms of cast-ons, I have a bunch of new cast-ons. The first thing I cast on this week was the final holiday gift for my brother-in-law, or the final holiday gift that I need to knit. These are socks for my brother-in-law. They are much bigger than my small sock blockers, but I went ahead and put them on there so you can kind of see them. These are the Barley Socks by Tin Can Knits. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, and they are written for roughly DK to worsted weight. I purchased some Barocco Vintage DK, which is, I believe, a 50-50 blend of wool and acrylic. I purchased that because it is an easy care option for my brother-in-law. He does his own laundry, and I did not want these socks to end up felted. So it is a great, just plain sock pattern, perfect for beginners. The only difference is that it's got this garter ridge panel, and funny story, I tell you all my mistakes so you don't have to make them and so you know that they happen. I started to knit these socks, and for some reason my garter stitch panel wasn't centered on the sock, and I kept looking at the sock pattern and thinking, gosh, that seemed to be centered on the sock, but it's not centered. And it took me all the way until the heel to realize that when I looked at the setup, I read the wrong size. So the garter stitch panel is written to be set up in the middle of the front / top of the sock, and I misread the number of stitches I was supposed to knit before starting the garter stitch panel, and so mine actually is totally off center because I knit it wrong. And at that point I was already through the heel and starting on the gusset decreases, and I thought, you know what, I don't really have time to rip this out and redo this because I have quite a few other knits on my plate, and so I decided that I'm just going to knit the other sock the mirror opposite. So the garter ridge will actually be kind of a little bit more towards the instep, towards the center of the sock. But that's okay. The other one will just be a mirror opposite. So the first one is done. I have not cast on the second one yet. That is the plan for tonight's knitting. And basically what I did was I knit the I basically knit this in 3 nights, just not 3 consecutive nights. The first night I knit the entire leg. The second night I knit the heel and a chunk, finished the gusset decreases, and then the final day I knit the foot. So, and I can do that because it's a worsted sock. It is not fingering weight. If it were fingering weight, I probably could not do that. My brother-in-law has, I believe, size 10 to 10.5 feet. So I made the largest size in the pattern. I sort of misread, another thing I misread about the pattern is when I went to go look at the pattern, it had listed that the yarn that they had used was the Plucky Knitter DK. So I went ahead and bought DK weight yarn, and then when I actually opened the pattern and looked at the pattern, it actually uses a worsted weight. So I knit in DK on the appropriate sized needles, and so I knit the largest size, hoping to get a sock that was like between the top 2 largest sizes, and hopefully these will be cozy house socks for him. So the plan is to finish the other one up this weekend so I can put together the package and send it out next weekend. So you may or may not see the finished pair of socks next week. It just depends. If I can get my package together over the weekend and get it out to them, I might do that, just because I'm a little worried about Christmas shipping being slow and I want it to get there in time. So we'll see. On the other hand, Monday is just the 14th, so no, I'll probably try and mail it on Saturday. So my goal is to knit the other one this weekend, and then I'll take some photos of them so you can see them, or the other one this week. I'll take some photos so you can see them, and these may be gone before I see you the next time. So that's that one. The other thing I did was I cast on a new sample for Zen Yarn Garden. This time I am knitting the Rainbow Warrior Shawl by Casapinka, and it is a two-colored shawl. It is a semicircle, and it relies, I'm not sure if it's exactly Elizabeth Zimmerman kind of pie shaping. I tend to think maybe not, but there are increases throughout the shawl on certain increase rows every so often. So it is definitely a semicircular shawl. I am knitting this in 2 skeins of Zen Yarn Garden Superfine Fingering, which you have seen me talk about before. This is the Zen Yarn Garden logo. One of the skeins is a natural, so it's just the plain color, and the other is a speckled, or a one-of-a-kind that they dyed called Sprinkles, and it is kind of a rainbow. It's got pinks and purples and blues and yellows and greens, and where they overlap you get some oranges and some other colorways, and it is a really fun variegated colorway, and the Rainbow Warrior Shawl is perfect for it because, or it is perfect for the Rainbow Warrior Shawl because the Rainbow Warrior Shawl combines a neutral and a variegated with some textured stitch patterns. So I am actually most of the way through this shawl. There are 8 pattern sections and I have knit 6 of them already. So I really tore through this one last week. Of course it is bunched up on the needle, so it will be hard to show you, but you'll be able to see some of the colors. You just won't be able to see the full shawl until I finish. I hope I will finish this one this week and get to block it so that I can show you next week, and then I'm going to try and get that one out as well so that pictures can be taken and it can be a kit in the new year. So the shawl is a paid for pattern. It starts with a garter tab cast on, and then you start doing your traditional semicircular shawl. As I said, the neutral and the variegated yarns are broken up by some slip stitch patterning, which creates really nice textural details and breaks up that variegated yarn. So it's got all its rainbow goodness. You can definitely still see it there in all its colors, and I think garter stitch is perfect for variegated yarns. But it also is not too overwhelming. So I think this is a great shawl. I have seen it done in both lights and darks as your neutral color. Like I saw several that are done in black with another color. And I think either way it really helps you tone down a little bit of your rainbow yarn, but also brighten up, and it's just a really interesting textural pattern. So I am excited for that one. Like I said, I am 6 sections in and out of 8, and then just a quick border. So I hope that I will be finishing that easily this week. I don't have a ton left of the contrast color. This is considered the main color. So hopefully I will have enough to finish. I did, learning from past and recent mistakes, go down a couple needle sizes from what it suggests in the pattern. I have had gauge issues recently. And while I had expected that if I was going to have gauge issues during this year of all years, it would be because my gauge was too tight, it turns out actually I'm knitting much more loosely than I used to. I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I am finding that on quite a few patterns I've had to go down 1 to 2 needle sizes. So the needle size for this is either a 5 or a 6, and I can tell you I am on a 4 because I really wanted to be sure I had enough yarn. I still think I'm going to have to knit faster to find out if I have enough yarn to finish this, but I'm hoping that I do, and then, like I said, I will be sending this off to the photographer. That's Gail Zucker, who I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, and then there will be kits available from Zen Yarn Garden after the first of the year. So that is Rainbow Warrior by Casapinka. It is a pattern available on Ravelry, and again, I am using Zen Yarn Garden Superfine in Natural and Sprinkles. So that is kind of fun for this week. And so again, my hope is to finish that second sock and this shawl. I don't have any other knits that I can share with you. I do have something else that I hope to cast on this week if I get through some of the other things. And I have a test or a sample knit that I have been swatching for and will be working on because I need to get it done before the first of the year. And so that will also take precedence, but unfortunately I can't share that one with you. So I'll have to wait until that one goes live. So quick sip of tea, we'll talk spinning, and then I will get you on out of here. So this week I started a new spin. It's kind of coincidental. I went into my, every so often I go into my deep stash and I pull out a braid that I have been hoarding for whatever reason. and spin it up. And this week's actually was 2F by hand, which is funny because I also knit the hat by 2F by hand. Unfortunately, they have not been dyeing for several years now. It was, well, technically it was 3 women because it was always a team of 2 women, but one of the women left partway through and another woman came in. So they had just a bright, exuberant color sense, and used beautiful, like, saturated jewel tones and bright colors. And I just love spinning their stuff, and I really do miss their dyeing sense. This is a bump of superwash merino. It was called Pop Sparkle and Electric Buzz. I don't actually know what that refers to. It was probably a pop culture reference at the time. But I don't specifically know it. And it is purples and turquoises and reds and oranges and pinks, and it is right here. I spun this one for maximum barber pole, so it's going to be bright and riotous color all the way throughout. I finished the singles in my spinning session yesterday with the spin group, and I hope to apply it this week and get it up in the shop. So this is definitely a shop braid if this is something you think you might be interested in. It is superwash merino, so it would make amazing socks. Or there are probably a million other things you could do with it, including a pattern. I don't know that I'll get enough yardage for Rainbow Warrior, but including a pattern like Rainbow Warrior where you could use something that was crazy bright and colorful with a neutral to tone it down. Or if you love these bright colors, go for it. I would totally knit a hat out of these, as you can see. So this one will be up in the shop before the end of the week. I don't know if I'll get to apply it tonight, but I'll definitely apply it tomorrow night and then wash it, and it will be up before the end of the week. So if you are interested, keep an eye on my Instagram because I will post there when it is up in the shop. That brings me to the spin for this week, and I impulse bought some fiber about a week and a half ago, and as soon as it got here I was like, that is the next thing on the wheel, except that I had already started something. So this is the next thing on the wheel. It is a braid from Nitty and Color. I have spun a few of her braids before, and she does yarn as well as fiber. I have not purchased her yarn, although I am sure it is quite lovely because she has all these great colors. Nitty and Color does super saturated colorways as well. I spun one from her earlier this year that was like half black and half purple and hot pink. I called that one Lightning. That one actually sold already. This one was dyed for Christmas in reds and greens. So it's reds and pinks and all of these neon greens, kind of a minty turquoisey green and a limey green, and oh my gosh, I love it. And I think what I'm going to end up doing is spinning this as a fractal. That is, I'm going to spin half the braid in short repeats, so you have short color segments, and then I'm going to spin half the braid in a long repeat. The reason that I want to do that for this one is red and green are such bright colors. I'm a little bit afraid that if I spin it in some of my usual ways, that either it will look almost brown or muddy when I'm done with it, and I'm not 100% sure that I want all the parts of the red to be up against all the parts of the green in the braid. I really think it would be nice to have some sections that are green on green, some that are red on red, and some that are red on green. So I suspect I will do this as a fractal spin this week. This is hand-painted Tarhi Roving, 4 ounces. I will finish this in time for Christmas. I don't know 100% that it would be able to ship in time for Christmas, but this is to go in the shop. So I will be working on this weekend, and hopefully I will get this one up in the shop before we meet next week. I might push myself on this one since this is a very holiday-ish color. It kind of reminds me of The Grinch Stole Christmas with that bright neon green and the reds. So I think this is going to be a super fun braid. It is unnamed. Her braids are generally unnamed, but maybe I will call it The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, or just Feeling Grinchy or something like that. But that is what I'm going to work on this week as soon as I finish the other braid. So I think that brings me to the end of this podcast. I do have at least one more project that I need to cast on for this month that I can show you. I didn't bring it with me, but it is going to be a hand-spun scarf. It is out of 2 colorways of my hand-spun. I'm hoping they're going to contrast nicely enough. I may need to switch one of them out. I need to think about it a little bit more and possibly knit the first few rows and see. It is a scarf pattern that is going to be free and coming out in January, and I'm going to, it was knit in a yarn that we're not entirely sure, the designer is not entirely sure what the yarn is, and which gives us, It was a yarn that a business was going to sell and then decided not to sell, so we're not exactly sure what the base is, and so we're going to recreate it in handspun so that we can release the pattern and know roughly what yardage it will take and roughly what gauge it is. So, I know that's super complicated. It's tied into everything I'm doing at work. Anyway, so I will be working on that and I will be able to show that to you, and then the pattern for that, which is free, will be coming out in January. Other than that, I would like to finish my crochet blanket. And I am getting there. It's not quite there yet, although it's huge, but I still have quite a bit of yarn, and also I ended up ordering one extra skein. I didn't have enough of any one color so that I could put the border on it, so I ordered an extra skein of dark gray, and that shipped and arrived here this week, or last week, so I can work on that. So I think that might be the next thing that I take up, because I would love to get that off the, well, technically hooks by the end of the year. Other than that, I have some new inspiration to try a couple sweater patterns, and I have a few other things on the needles that either need to be frogged or restarted, and maybe I'll try and go back and pick up a whip. And then the only other thing I think I might cast on at the end of the year is I think I will probably join Little Bobbin's Knits Christmas Eve cast on, and I have a skein of handspun all wound up and ready to go so that I can knit some handspun socks. So that is kind of the remainder of January. As I start crossing things off my list, I'll bring them here to share with you. And I guess that's about it. I hope you have had a lovely weekend and are set up for a nice week to come. I hope you are healthy. I hope those around you are healthy. That the weather is nice wherever you are, or the weather is as you choose it. Like I said, it's been getting chilly here, but of course we are coming up on Christmas, so I don't usually mind that. And I just, I wish peace and joy for you this coming few weeks. I know the end of the year is always tough for a lot of people. I have a lot of anxiety around the holiday season and the switching over of the year. And of course, with everything that has happened this year and all the things that are just absolutely unprecedented, I know that the end of the year can be a stressful time. I wish for you, like I said, peace and joy and happy crafting. And until I see you next time, I hope you have a wonderful week. And I will say, as always, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye!